welcome to the Stylecraft tutorials. This is part 5 of the Ross Crochet Along. The blanket is designed by Bligh. This is the rectangle that we're going to be making, and we'll be starting with our mocha yarn. There are some things to consider before making the rectangle panel. One of them being that it is the only part of the blanket done to rows, and that with your rows, when starting a new colour, that first row is always going to be a row of trebles, and then you always turn and in the same colour continue and do a plain row of DCs. Okay, so let's look at this white row. I will have done a row of trebles with the work to the front, and the treble row is where you do your fancy front post stitches, and then I will have turned and done a plain row of DCs on the back, and that is the same for every row. So in between every row of trebles you will have a plain row of DCs, and that'll make more sense when we start making the blanket. Another thing is that we don't start off the foundation row with a row of chains, but we're doing a foundation treble row, which is where you can do the trebles. You can just do a row of trebles without having to do your chains. And the advantage of this is that sometimes when you do your chains first, they can be a bit tight and it can pull in that first row. Whereas with a foundation treble row, you've got a nice elasticity to it. It's got a nice tension. So we'll start off with a foundation treble row. Okay, so we're going to start with a slip knot. I'm sure you all know how to do a slip knot, but we haven't done one yet in this video, so I'll just show you how. Just need to make a loop in the yarn, making sure the tail is at the bottom. And then we're going to come up through the loop, grab the tail and make a loop with the tail, and that's your slip knot. Okay, I'll just show you again. So make a loop in the yarn, making sure the tail's at the bottom. We need to come up through that loop, grab the tail and make a loop out of that tail. And that's your slip knot. So now we can put the hook through there. So now we're going to chain 3. And now we're going to work a treble into that very first chain. So we're going to yarn over, insert the hook into that first chain, yarn over and pull through the loop. And now usually to finish off our treble we'd yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. But we're just going to yarn over and pull through that first loop on the hook. And then that is that chain that we're going to work into for the next treble. So now we can finish off our treble as we normally would. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that little chain 1 that we did, that is what we're going to be working our next treble into. So yarn over, insert your hook into that loop that we did. Yarn over and just pull through the work, and then yarn over and pull through a loop. So that we've just done is where we're going to be working our next treble. So what I like to do is keep my thumb on that, so I know that's where I'm working. So now we can finish off this treble, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So same again, yarn over into that loop that we made, which is here. And I'm always making sure that, as usual, picking up 2 parts of the stitch. I'm not just picking up 1 loop. So picking up 2 parts, yarn over, pull through the work, and then yarn over and pull through that loop. So that I've just made there is what we'll be working into next. So finish off your treble, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you can see the trebles that it's making. So you kind of, usually when you're crocheting along. With this, you're kind of crocheting up like along this way, because you're making your chains here and you're working into them. So yarn over into that loop that you made, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through a loop. So that there that you just made, that is what you're working into. So I'm just going to cover that up with my thumb because I know that's where I need to work. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is your treble finished. So yarn over again, and that is where we're entering. That's where we're starting our next treble. So yarn over, pull through the work, and then yarn over and pull through a loop to create that stitch that we're working into. Now we can finish off the treble as normal. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so can you see how it's making a row of trebles? So I'll do it a few more times. Yarn over, we're working into that loop that we made. Yarn over, pull through the work. Yarn over, pull through 1, because that's what we're working into. So that there, that's just what I'm going to cover up. Oop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we're going to start again. Yarn over into that loop that we made. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 1 loop. So that yarn over, pull through 1 loop is the only difference made to working a treble. Okay, so yarn over, pull through 2, finishing off the treble as normal. Yarn over, pull through 2, and that chain 1 that you did, that's what we're working on next, stitch into. So all we're doing is making that a chain stitch as we go, rather than making a full row of them and then working into them. We're just making that little one as we're going. So yarn over, pull through 1, so that is the next stitch that I'll be working into. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that one there, yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, making sure that you're picking up 2 parts of it. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 1, and that's the loop that you're working into. Finish off your treble as normal, and then work into that loop. Okay. So we need 65 trebles made in this way. Okay, so I'm sure you don't want to see me make 65 of these. I'll see you when I've made 65, and then we will be doing a row of DCs. So now that I've finished my 65 foundation trebles, I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work so that I end up at the beginning of the row. Okay, so my yarn is still at the top of the row, and I've chained my 1, so now I'm working into that very first treble with a DC. So I'm just working along every single treble with a DC until I get to the end. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to count all my little V stitches. I'm going to count every one of these to make sure that I've got 65. So you start in that very first treble and you end in the very last treble. Okay, so I'll see you once we've worked a DC into every treble to the end. So I'm just going to show you the last DC of row 2. So because your chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that very first chain 1 that you did at the beginning of row 2, you need to work a DC into the very last stitch. So you kind of think that where I finish now is where you finish, but you need to kind of have your last DC to the left of the last stitch. So it's a bit fiddly, but it's right on the corner there. Okay, so just make sure that you've got those 65 V's. So that'll be 65 now. And then I'm just going to finish off by cutting off the yarning over and pulling through that last loop. I just think pulling it through makes it that little bit more secure. It's up to you how you want to finish it really. Okay, so that's the end of row 2. We're going to grab our grey yarn for round 3. So with our grey yarn, we're going to start with a standing treble. So we've just finished our DCs working this way. So we need to turn the work because we're working along the right side of the work. So as long as you remember to always start where your tail is where you've finished, so that you don't end up starting it on the wrong side. Okay, so standing treble. We're starting into that first stitch. And now we're going to work 10 treble into each of the next 10 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 'So we should have 11 in total, including our standing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So now we're going to miss one and work a V-stitch into the next stitch. Okay, so yarn over, miss the next stitch, work a treble into here, chain 1, and work another treble into the same stitch. So it makes that little V. Okay, so now we're going to miss two stitches and work another V-stitch. So now we've got 2 V's. We need another 4. Okay, so miss your next 2, V-stitch. Miss your next 2, V-stitch. Miss your next 2 and a V-stitch. How many have we got now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need one more. Miss 2, V-stitch. So just don't forget that little chain in between. That little chain 1 in between, yeah. 2 treble. Okay, so that's what your row should be looking like now. Just remembering you're missing 1 there and then 2 in between your V's. So now we're going to miss 1 stitch and work a treble into each of the next 7. stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we're going to do the same with the V-stitches as we did before. So miss 1 and V-stitch into the next. Treble, chain 1, treble, makes your V-stitch. Okay. So we're wanting 6 V's and we're missing 2 stitches in between each of them. So miss 2 and another V. Miss 2 and a V. Miss 2 and a V. And again. And once more, miss 2 and a V. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to miss 1 stitch, just 1. And we should have 11 stitches remaining to do a treble into each of them. So 1 treble into each of the next 11 stitches. Ten, and last one, 11. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. With your 6 V's here. Your 7 treble in the middle, missing 1 stitch on either side. Your 6 V's here, remembering to miss 2 stitches in between each of them. And your 11 trebles here. So if you've got that, we are ready to turn the work. So remember to chain 1, turn the work, and work a DC into every stitch. So we're going to be working into that very first treble. So I've chained 1, into that very first treble we're working a DC. I'm just going to show you, obviously, work a DC into every treble. But I'm just going to show you how to work the DCs when we get to the V stitches. So we've got to our last treble there. So we're working into the next treble, which starts our V, and then working into the chain 1 space as well. Then into the next V. So that's the end of that first V. So we're going to work a DC into the first of the next V, first treble of the next V, and into that chain 1 space. And into the next treble. Okay, because sometimes people don't count chains as stitches, but it's just so that you know you're working into every stitch, including the chain 1. Okay, so if you work a DC into every stitch, I'll see you when we get to the end. So when you've got to the end of row 4, remembering to get that very end stitch there right on the corner. there. To make up your 65 DCs. Cut the end, and I just like to yarn over and pull through to secure it. There we go. So make sure you count all your little V's, not including your chain 1, which is that little bit there, your full V's, and you should have 65 DCs again. Okay, so count them all to the end, and then when you've got your 65, you can turn, and we'll be starting row 5, starting here where the tail is. We'll be starting with the cream yarn.